Hands down, the most confusing thing about React isn't React at all. It's JSX. It's this code we're typing right here, and it looks like HTML, but we know it's not a string because we're not wrapping it in quotes. So what exactly is going on with JSX? Well, to show you how it works, and to diffuse any magic you think might be happening, what we're going to do is head over to our browser, open up a new tab, and go to babel.js.io/REPL. And what you see here is a left panel where you can type in your code, and a right panel which shows you the output after it's run through Babel. And remember, inside of Atom, I can open up index.html. We are indeed running our app.jsx file through Babel. So to get started, we're going to recreate some of this functionality over inside of the left panel. First up, I'm going to define my new class, which we called greeter. Set it equal to react.createClass. And right away, you can see we have a difference. On the right, we have a display name property that we never added to our class. This is how React keeps track of the class internally. It uses this display name property, and its value is set to the same value as the variable. Now let's go ahead and define our render method. It's going to be a function that takes no arguments. And remember, all render does is it returns some JSX to render to the browser. And we're going to get started with a very simple example. Inside of our return parentheses, all I'm going to do is type our h1 tag with the word hello world, exclamation mark. I'm going to close the h1 tag, and then everything works. And on the right, you see we have something very different than what we have on the left. Every time you use JSX in your files, they get converted to calls to react.createElement. You can see that after Babel transpiled our JSX code, react.createElement was called with our tag name, any attributes, we currently don't have any defined, and the contents. In this case, it's just the string hello world. Now, if we were to go ahead and render this to the screen, we can use react dom.render. I'm going to pass it some JSX code, which is going to be the greeter component, just like this. And the second argument, document.getElementById app. And you notice that over in the right, inside of our call to react dom.render, another call to react.createElement was placed. This one was called with two arguments. The first is the tag name, only it's not a string like it was up here. This time it's using the variable greeter, which stores our React component. And the second argument, null, is going to be empty because we haven't passed any attributes to it. Every time you're using JSX, which looks a lot more useful and helpful, it's actually getting called to these calls to react.createElement. Now to show you the final result, I'm going to go into Atom. I'm going to copy our entire app.jsx file and paste it in the left panel. And on the right, you can see what we have is one call to react.createElement with our div tag and its attributes, which are null. And then as the other arguments, we have two more calls to react.createElement. One, our h1 tag, and two, our p tag. So remember that JSX isn't special. We can eliminate it completely from our React apps and write it like this. Obviously, that's not ideal because it becomes a pain in order to maintain all this code. JSX is the preferred way to create your React apps. I just wanted to show you that there really is no magic behind the scenes. Now, the final way we're going to prove that inside of Atom is to comment out our current return statement. Inside of render, I'm going to return a call to react.createElement with a capital E. I'm going to create an h1 element. It doesn't need any attributes, so I'll leave that null. And in this case, attributes would be things like ID or class. The next thing I'm going to do is add the contents, and all we're going to do inside of our strings is hello react.createElement. Now if I save the file and refresh my browser, you can see that our app works just the same. So whether we use JSX code or calls to react.createElement, it's all doing the same thing in the end. Like I said, this is much easier to maintain and read, so we're going to be using JSX throughout the course. There really is no good reason to avoid using JSX. All right, I'll see you in the next video where we're going to start passing data into our components.